Hello everyone, it's Brett here, Lionheart84, and today I'm going to do a full video on just my pure tropical guavas. These are all Psidium Guajava. Just got to watch the wind because it might knock the tall one over there, which we don't want to happen, so I might have to rush for it if it suddenly blows because it is a bit breezy. Now these are all either named varieties, unknown varieties, or seed grown ones that I've grown myself. So I'm still watching the wind here. So I'm going to have a quick look through, talk through them, show you what I've got, because I know there's some people who are particularly interested in the tropical guavas, show you how they're doing, tell you which ones have flowered, which is only one at the moment, although one of the others did have a few flower buds on it last year that didn't make it. They just grow too late in the season. So we'll so I'm just watching the wind here. So let's progress through them quickly before the wind does any damage, and then I can put them back, the tall one back where it's secure, because the main problem is the tall one might get knocked over. In fact, I'll do the tall one first and then I can move that back to where hopefully it'll be perfectly safe. Now this one here is my most successful one so far, and this was actually, if I remember right, this one came from Holland. It was just listed as Psidium Guajava. They did not give any name or variety or an indication of whether it was grown from cutting or seed or grafted. There's no sign of any graft on it. The stems are good size now. I'm fairly sure that this would have been grown from a cutting originally, and I'm thinking it's probably just a standard sort of white guava. It's not easy to tell from either flowers or the leaves or the fruits. The stem is thicker than my thumb. It's about an inch thick at the bottom. It did mostly defoliate last winter indoors, but it's now recovered quite well. It's getting a little bit, that is a nice soft material, but you can see that's going to be pulling tight on the stem soon. But this is the one that I featured this year because this one has both flowered and a set fruit, which is exciting for me. It's the first time that I've had fruit sets on a guava. Now we can see some new flower buds coming here, and what looks like a small fruit that's set. However, it's got another pair of fruits set here. These are probably about ½ an inch in diameter and getting close to an inch in length. Obviously these flowers are going to open fairly soon. However, much more exciting for me, and the challenge is going to be keeping them on, is the first two flowers that set fruit are these two here. Now these are almost as large as a walnut now, I would say. Good 1.5 inches long, nearly an inch wide. Give you some idea. Again, I'm presuming it's going to be a white flesh guava, not a pink one. It's certainly not easy to tell at this stage. Whether or not I can keep it on the plant, these flowers all winter, fruits, remains to be seen, because they really are going to take about another 6 months from here, and that's going to take us right through to about May. And of course, even if they ripen in early spring indoors, there'll be no heat to give them any sweetness, and if this plant defoliates badly like it did last year, it probably won't have enough energy to put into the guavas. I will probably remove this one and let it try and concentrate on the 4 that have set on the plant, and then we'll see what happens. Now I'm just going to pause the video for a second and move this one back to, I hope, relative safety so it doesn't get blown over, because I don't want to have a stem snap and lose these fruits. It would be very, very disappointing. I'll just give you a close-up of them. Yeah, and I'll pause the video and I'll pop back to the other plants once I've moved this one to safety. Okay, so we can go through them in order now. Now the first one we're featuring here, this one is a name variety. This one came from Canarius originally. Now, interestingly, I've left these in here because these look like guava seedlings to me. I'm not sure, it's early days. Now, they won't have been in the pot. I mean, I've had this now since, let me see, I've had this since autumn 21, so I've had this 2 years. I got it in autumn 21, and obviously I potted it up in this pot. Now I can't remember if I've dropped some seeds in here that I thought weren't going to germinate, or whether or not it could have had seeds in it when it came from Canarius, which seems unlikely. But these do look like guava seedlings, which is why I've left them. So I'm going to let them grow a bit bigger and see what happens. And they're not growing at a speed that I would expect weeds to grow at. Now this is, as I said, is a named variety, and this one is White Supreme, which is quite a well-known variety of white guava. Seems to be doing quite well, the plant. You can see the stems have got this sort of slight pinkish tinge to them. Now moving on to the second one next to it, this is an unnamed plant. From the looks of the label, I've seen these generic labels from Holland. I think I got this one from Sutton's, and it was just advertised as a tropical guava. I didn't know if it was even going to be a strawberry guava or lemon guava, a Psidium Guajava, until it turned up. But when it turned up, it turned out it was a what I call the full tropical guava, and that's a Psidium Guajava. But there's no way of knowing. The picture would indicate that it's a white guava. See, it just says Psidium Guajava on there, and it's Dutch supplied. But I would imagine it was cutting growing. I don't think they'd have bothered growing them from seeds commercially in Holland, but I'm assuming it's probably going to be a white flesh guava, but that remains to be seen, obviously. The smaller one next to it is one I featured recently. This was my most recent purchase, and this is meant to be a red-fleshed seedless guava. So that will be of probably Thai or Malaysian origin. It's not a grafted plant, so again I think it would have been grown from cuttings, so it would be nice to get this to a level where it flowers one day. I don't know if there's much variation in flowers on the tropical guavas. I don't think any of the white or pink flesh ones have pink flowers. I believe they're all white anyway, but we will wait and see. Now this little one next to it is one of the ones I've had the longest, unbelievably, and it kept, as you can see from the centre, it's kept dying back and then it's recovered again. This was one I got from Canarius back in 2018, so this is 5 years I've had this, unbelievably. This is actually Stone Ruby, which is a named pink flesh guava, so I've definitely got one guaranteed pink flesh one in terms of the name of the variety, and I believe this one was, again, would have been grown from a cutting. Now this one next to it, if you check the label, it just says large pink guava. Now this is one that I've grown from seed. I got a fruit originally from, the fruit would have come from probably My Exotic Fruits. I don't think I got this one from I don't think this one came from Borough Market. Yeah, I'm sure the fruit came from My Exotic Fruit. This was a large Brazilian pink flesh guava that I got the seeds from, and I think I probably sowed these about 3 years ago. So this one's done quite well, and it's put out some strong growth this year. Has never flowered for me yet, although it is getting close to flowering size. Again, tends to defoliate in winter, which is a bit of a nuisance, but that is par for the course with guavas when you're growing them in a kitchen like I am, because they don't get enough light and the atmosphere's fairly dry. But nevertheless, it's looking quite healthy at the moment, and obviously the bigger they get, the more resilient they're likely to be to get towards difficult growing conditions. Now, if I move that one out of the way a minute, let me just lift that and move it slightly. Behind it is another pink guava, and this is one that again, another one I grew from seed, and this came from a smaller fruit. Now interestingly, the leaves seem to be slightly more narrower and more pointed than some of the other guavas. Some of the other tropical ones tend to have a more rounded end on them. These seem to be very pointed. Now one thing about guavas when you grow them from seed is they don't necessarily come true to type. I mean, there'll be various reasons for that. Obviously this could be grown in an area where there are various guava varieties, and therefore there's quite a lot of cross pollination, so it may well be. I seem to remember Dan in Florida's grown quite a few from seed, from the seeds of a couple of fruits of the same fruit, but he's actually had a mix of white and pink fruited guavas. So obviously even though they came from the same fruit, he's had a lot of seedling variation, so we don't really know what this will end up being, but it was certainly grown from a pink flesh fruit, so we'll have to wait and see what the end result is. But again, this one has never flowered for me, that's just new growth there. It's just getting to the size where it might flower, but not so far. Now the one next to it here, if I make a bit of room, this one is another one that I got from Canarius, and this one also came in September 21, and this is actually a Bangkok giant. This is a Thai Bangkok giant, or Bangkok apple it's sometimes called, which would be one of those large green guavas with a white flesh. It's got very much more pinkish stems on this one, although that might be to do with the weather conditions at the moment. It did die back again last winter, but it's come back quite well. You can see the dead stem in the middle there. It's again a very common problem with the guavas here in my growing conditions, but nevertheless I'm quite happy with how it's looking. No sign of any flowers on it. Again, it probably needs to be 2 or 3 years old before it will flower for me. Walking around the back here, we've got this one, which is another one of my newer additions. This one was supplied to me by Thomas, and it's come from Cyprus, and it's been listed. I've been told it's a white guava, so it'll be another one probably similar to White Supreme in appearance. Again, reasonably narrow leaves, but they're slightly more rounded on the end. It was very pale when I got it, but since I've repotted it and I've actually left it outside, it's pulled up very nicely now. The leaf is obviously no good. Now this one here is the guava that I've had the longest. This was the very first one I got, and if I remember rightly, I think I might have got this from, I think this one came from Victoriana Nursery, if I remember rightly. Now I would have got this probably a good 5 years ago now, even longer than I've had the other ones from Canarius, maybe 6 years. Now for the first time last summer, this actually right at the end of, well, it was in autumn, it produced a couple of flower buds for me, but just before it was coming indoors, and they never opened, they dropped off without opening. Now this year it hasn't produced any flower buds at all. Now I think the main reason for that is basically it died back really badly last winter, probably lost 95% of its leaves unfortunately, and sometimes those setbacks are so much that the plant doesn't recover enough in the summer to flower again. I was half expecting to see some flower buds appearing at some of these longer shoots, but probably because we've had a very cool summer, not been ideal conditions at all really. They haven't thrived. Only my tallest one has actually produced a few flowers. Unfortunately, this one that I thought was going to flower has done nothing for me, and that again is the problem with growing guavas here. Unless you've got a heated greenhouse or a conservatory, a frost-free, ideally heated conservatory, it's very difficult to give them the conditions they like, which is plenty of light and a nice humid atmosphere in winter. But nevertheless, they're quite tough and they do keep coming back. If you look down here, you will see the amount of dieback it had on it. This whole stem, I had to cut every branch off it, but it's branched out nicely at the top. As I said, unfortunately no flowers on it, but it's got a lovely thick stem that's at least 2 inches across, so it's big enough to flower. But I just think that the weather we've had this summer has not really allowed it to thrive. We just haven't had enough heat, even though the sun's coming out now, just to prove me wrong. So anyway, that was that's a run through all of my what I call the proper tropical guavas, not the subtropical ones. I haven't obviously covered my Psidium Cattleyanum today because they are the Lemonon's red strawberry guavas or cherry guavas, but I thought I'd do the pure tropicals, as these are the ones that require a little bit more attention in our winters. But obviously I'll keep an eye out over winter on the one that's got the fruit on it, just to see if I can get my first ever guava fruits. Obviously I've had some cherry guava fruits, that's fine, but I just haven't had any success getting the tropical ones to fruit for me because my growing conditions are a little bit challenging for them. But thanks for watching the video. Hope you've found it of a little bit of interest. Please do give me a thumbs up, of course. Please subscribe to my channel. You're welcome to share the video if you know anybody who's going to be interested particularly in tropical guavas in cooler climates. If you've got somewhere you can bring them indoors, you can keep them alive. And obviously I'd appreciate it if you did subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And remember to click on the bell if you want updates on when my new videos come out, which will I'll no doubt do one on the strawberry and lemon cherry guavas as well sometime soon. I'll see you all in the next video. Brett out for now.